What up, fam? Hit that like, hit that subscribe. This is Agree to Disagree. We're talking everything from March Madness, Joel Embiid injury updates, and the Eagles, the best offense in the NFC. We're going to talk about it. Let's go.
Uncle Sweeps, Nick Delgado, the legendary Brian Wilson, and the fucking man himself, Tom Arnone. These three guys from Jersey bringing you real talk with no agenda. You don't like them? Tough shit. It's their show, and they're going to say whatever the hell they goddamn want.
Welcome in, everybody. This is Agree to Disagree, only on A2D Radio. Every Sunday, we are brought to you by our doc, make them yours, Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC, location in Burlington, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Find them right on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. As always, Nick Delgado, Greg Mwakovic. I'm Tom Arnone. No Brian Wilson tonight. Getting his St. Patty's Day on, living in his early 20s. We know how Brian gets after it. So we hope, hope the big fella's safe out there and enjoying his day.
Still a kid.
His day, night, late evening, early morning, whatever it may turn into. But throughout this show, we'll give you a crumb of the week. Final four predictions. Obviously, brackets are out and about. So here we are, and we'll dissect who's going to the Final Four and who's cutting the nets down. Joel Embiid injury update. Nick Nurse talked about Joel Embiid last night. Obviously, he was at shoot-around today, practice, non-contact stuff, but was practicing today. So we'll get into Embiid later on the show. But our main topic at hand surrounds the Philadelphia Eagles. And how can it not? This show has not had an opportunity to discuss what's transpired in Howie season. And we're only a week in. Tomorrow, we're a week in of a week of Howie season so far. And the moves the Philadelphia Eagles have made. And we're going to dissect them all. We'll go through them all. But our poll question for tonight, chime in. Let us know. This updated Eagles offense is the best in the NFC. Do you agree or disagree? Let us know. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. That's where we're live. Everywhere you get your podcast, we're there as well. Hit the like, subscribe, follow. Most importantly, join the conversation tonight. What do you say out there? Best offense in the NFC? Because you guys know where I stand. I agree. Absolutely. Come get me some. Who wants some of this? And are the Niners really good? Yeah. They're right there. They're right there, of course. Okay, Cowboys took a step back, in my opinion. All right, and not only losing Smith, but you lose Pollard. All right, they're just not as good. But we'll see what they are. And we still got draft, and, we got a long way to go. We're talking about right now. All right, and, okay, Atlanta with Kirk Cousins looks like that could be a promising offense, better than what it was. If we really look around, how many? Chicago? We don't know who the quarterback is yet. Two really good wide receivers, really good running back. We don't know who the quarterback is. Probably Caleb Williams, but we'll see. We'll see what's there. So when I look around it, to me, it's the Eagles, and not by a ton, because I think like I said, I think San Fran's right there, and I think there's probably some other teams right there. Like I think Green Bay will probably get better. All right, in the NFC, I thought Jordan Love had a good end to his season over there. So I think there's other NFC teams that could come not out of nowhere, but that could be up in that conversation. But when you look at it on paper and what the Eagles are bringing at you, now, listen, you take away Jason Kelce, I understand that's a big loss, right? I get it. But they've upgraded in ways where they had that replacement in-house. They did that drafting 2 years in a row. So if it's right, if it hits, it hits. We don't know. But Jurgens doesn't look like he can't play. But is it going to be Kelce? No. But can he just be really good? All he's got to be is just really good. Right? But you add Barkley to go into this offense, and DaVonta Parker's a better three than what you had. So right there, that's an upgrade, and what you already have on this offense. So yeah, I'll say right now it's the best in the NFC. I'll agree. What does everybody out there say? Let us know, family. Chime in, baby. Chime in. I want the disagrees. I see you, Don. I see you, Don. Well, I see you, Detroit. I left them out on purpose, waiting for Don.
I don't know if you did, but I'm disagreeing. No, I would disagree, but it's not a landslide. I mean, I hear you. The addition of Barkley and everything you said is absolutely, is ginormous, right? But I look at it like, you can't leave out the two teams that ended up in the NFC Championship game. You know what I mean? And I know all the hatred for the Niners, and I'm with you, right? But the Lions were awesome. So I just, you can mix up those top three as much as you want. You know what I mean? The collapse that the Eagles had, they got some explaining to do. All right. So Howie did his job, and we'll see what happened. And I love it because not only I root for you, everybody in this area, good for you guys. You know what I mean? But I love it because there's no excuses, right? Because I think it went from people had 13, 12, 11. And then as the slide came, then that's when people said, well, this roster sucked anyway. All right, this roster sucked. Did it? It didn't when you won the 13. All right, with that schedule, with the monster schedule they had, right? And people were picking 12 and 13, then how the roster couldn't have been bad. I understand their defense sucked. And it wind up coming out that way. I get it. Right. But there's if it was that bad going in, people would have had 6, 7, 8. You know what I mean? And they didn't. So anyway, that season's over. I just look at it like, all right, now it's no more excuses. That's it. You get it done or you don't. And every team faces that. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't like that narrative, right? When the roof falls in, it's like, well, we're not good enough. At one point, you were 10-1. You guess you were good enough. All right. Now we knew, as guys that would talk about this every week, that there were some smoke and mirrors there. All right. We weren't stupid. You know what I mean? It's hard to win football games in the National Football League. So we were giving him credit for that.
Yeah. That's right? That's the only way we had. It's the only leg we stood on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the only leg we stood on after weeks of it. Because it was the same shit. The same shit. You're like, how are they hanging on? Well, I guess they just know how to win. That's all we kept saying. Well, I guess nobody does it better than the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. Every Monday, I had a post go out of another, there's another win, right? To up their wins at like 30 and 10 together, right? And every week it was like, well, they're finding ways right now. What I will say in terms of this poll question has nothing to do with the defense, right? So, as much as their defense had holes, this is strictly offense. And guess what? They stunk down the stretch too. Let's not leave them out to dry. So they have a lot of a lot to prove in the 2024 season. But but I like what you said. With an upgrade like this, there's no excuses. Because on paper, there's not a better offense. Now you got to go play. And the Lions and the Niners, in my opinion, are right there, Don. I do love you, but I wasn't going to give you love.
I mean, not only do you got to go play. Here's the thing, like, it's a monster year for one. This is a monster year for one. You know what I mean? And that's and we know that
it's the year for one.
It's a monster year for one, because if you look at the two guys, if you want to have rankings, whatever, the people hate Philadelphia, whatever, I don't care. Whoever puts their rankings out, you know what I mean? But you can hate those two guys all you want, right? But both of those guys that are leading those teams, if you jumble up the top three and let's just say you say 49ers and Lions, those two guys are progressing every year. Okay, I know Baby Hands had his moments, right? But Baby Hands is, I think he landed in a place that he loves, and they love him back. All right.
And we got Baby Hands now too,
and he was fantastic. He's fantastic for them. So,
we have our own Baby Hands, sweet.
Until I see,
you never know what happens.
Until I see those guys take a step back. You know what I mean? Like, the Purdy hate, I welcome it. Go ahead, man. Like, how could you hate the guy? You can hate the guy because of the team he's on and all that stuff. And if people, blow him for no reason, but guy was the last pick in the draft, dude. Come on, man. Don't tell me about all these weapons and all this stuff, dude. It's
guilty by association.
The guy still, exactly.
Oh yeah. I hate him just because he's on the Niners.
The guy still gets it done.
If Debo didn't talk so much, I might like him.
Yeah,
if Debo didn't run his mouth
the guy still gets it done. And I think, like we alluded to when we covered the Super Bowl, right? You can hate him all you want. He left the field twice with the lead. Okay, and then the vaunted 49ers defense, all right, spit the hook back.
All right, so our poll: this updated Eagles offense is the best in the NFC. Do you agree or disagree? Chime in right now. I agree. I think it's not by a ton, but by enough with the star power, with the explosiveness. I think all Detroit's really good. I'm taking it a step further because I want to believe we have the better of the two quarterbacks there, right? I want to believe that. I truly do. I'm not saying we do. It's a big year for him. But now all the binoculars are right on Jalen Hurts this year in this offense. They have a monster year. So I agree. Greg, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of teams that you could throw in this, and you guys mentioned them, right? Obviously Detroit, but they didn't really improve right now, so they're going as status quo, right? They haven't really done anything. Obviously, draft is coming up, but in free agency they didn't do much.
No
right?
subtractions, but no subtractions.
Yeah, no subtractions though. Yes, San Fran might lose Brandon Ayuk, right? So what does that offense look like without Ayuk, right? I mean, I'm sure they'll pencil somebody in and be almost just as explosive, but Atlanta with Kirk Cousins is very intriguing. The Packers getting Josh Jacobs, gives them you would think an edge over Aaron Jones, even though Aaron Jones was really good for them. But yes, I'm going to agree. I think our star power and our explosiveness, I think DaVonta Parker, as you mentioned, Tom, brings a different element to this wide receiver group, right? He still has bricks for hands at times, but so did Torrey Smith. And Torrey Smith worked out for us. Torrey Smith had a couple crucial catches when we needed him.
That's even though
he at times had bricks for hands. But I like what this offense is looking like. And you might say, yeah, the offensive line takes a step back, but look around the league. Like we've been I don't know what I'm trying to say. Spoiled with our offensive lines, right? Because they've been so good that most of the league would take an offensive line that we're going to roll out this year, right? It's not up to our standards or what we're used to, right? When you look at replacing Kelsey and then Lane getting a little older, right? But a lot of other teams in the NFL would love to have our line, even with Juergens and potentially Steen there as your guard, right? So I like our offensive line. We're explosive. You guys mentioned it though. It's all on number one at this point. If he can't have another MVP season with these types of weapons, then Houston, we might have a problem.
Yeah, and I agree, Greg. It's the eyeballs are all on Jalen Hurts, and Andrew says C-Mac is better than Saquon, so that's why he'll say San Fran. But if you look at it like Saquon, if you look at that roster there and what he had to run behind, that wasn't ideal for any running back, to be honest with you. So let's see what he does in a different situation here.
Not disagreeing with Andrew. Not disagreeing.
Not disagreeing, but
I know.
But you can have that conversation this year, the same conversation of like in the MVP conversation by the end of the year, just like Christian McCaffrey, right? In that conversation here in Philadelphia, Saquon, a healthy Saquon can be right in that conversation.
Yeah.
Right. Where you're like, oh yeah, they're similar because they both have similar attributes, right? They both can catch the ball in the backfield. They both have the explosiveness to take 150. They both have those types of abilities. And when you have an offense that doesn't allow you to stack the box, allows those abilities to come out and say hello even more. And that's what I think it allows Saquon in our offense that McCaffrey doesn't even get in their offense. The RPO game that we can bring to the table is different than what Brock Purdy can run. So that should allow Saquon even some more running room per se at times, right? Mm-hmm. And Jalen. So that's why I think this offense is even better. Like that's the other reason why I give this offense a little bit of a little grade-ish higher than the other ones is because of that ability if they use it, right? Unlike what they did at the end of last year. If they use it. If they don't use it, then we're screwed. It doesn't matter anyway. Yeah, Juergens is the center, Andrew. And I mean, it'll be Steen or Hennessy. It'll be one of the two. So they're fighting for that spot.
Yeah. Like you said, Howie's done a great job. He's done his job. So, I don't know if, like you said, I don't know if Parker brings a different element, but he brings you depth that you didn't have, from that position, other than the top two guys, so, he's been a retread for a reason, but compared to, Quez and what they were running out there, absolutely. So
yeah, he's an upgrade over.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, different element, and just he's more of a go guy, right? You know what I mean? A straight runner and stuff, as opposed to actual routes, right? You know what I mean? Because we know he can't catch.
well, that's what air quote Quez was supposed to do too, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
which he didn't do.
The biggest catch of the season.
Bill says, question, fellas, scale 1 to 10. How confident are you that Kelsey is definitely retired? I'm at a 4. I think he's seriously rethinking a return. What do you guys say to that?
I'm at a 6 that he stays retired.
Bill, it's funny because I was thinking about this the other night.
I think it's definitely plausible though. So like,
I hate to say 50-50. I hate to say 50-50.
You guys are at a 4 or 5. I definitely get that.
I hate to say 50-50, right? Like, I hate to be 50-50. So what'd you say, Greg? A 6?
I did 6.
All right, I'll say a 7 that he's definitely retired. So
Yeah,
I'll give that 30% that I still think there's a because he's just like Sweep said and you said, love what Howie's doing. How can you not? And he's mentioned it a couple times how he loves what Howie's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the more he mentioned it, the more he's like, and the body feels a little better. A month from now, it's going to feel even better. Mm-hmm. Right. And then you're like, maybe I got one more. Maybe I got one more.
To Jurgens in training camp.
Because he just said too that he hates his Eagles career ending on that type of finish.
The way it did, yeah.
Yeah, like on a tank per se. Like everything went south.
You leave the door ajar. I mean, I'm probably at 9 that he's done. Because, especially because of the press conference. You know what I mean? Not that that doesn't change anything. But right. I think more if you hung on for a little bit and you waited and you weren't reporting the training camp and you were, you were telling the team that you were done, but you left it open and say, hey, let me see how the body feels. But once you have one of those bangers, you know what I mean? Like there's nothing etched in stone that you can't come back. I just, it's you can't have another one. You had one.
Yeah.
Second presser doesn't get aired.
Yeah.
Like that buddy that has that second bachelor party for the next wedding. Like, dude, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Like,
that's it.
We already went one time. What are we doing?
But no, it's just great what they've added. And like, again, when you go through the offensive line, it's not like this is a terrible offensive line. Yeah. It's Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen, Lane Johnson. That's not bad. Yeah. And I'm just saying, you had a 3-down back like Saquon to this offense and his abilities and the ability for what it will do not only for him and this offense, but guys for AJ Brown, DeVonta Smith, Hurts. Yeah. I mean, it just opens so many things up game plan wise that you didn't have. And that's not a disrespect to DeAndre Swift, because I like DeAndre. You know what I mean? But this is a tick up. It's a tick up on the respect chart per se.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's crossing a lot of people's minds. Sorry, Greg.
Okay.
So that's why you got to win in free agency, because you can leave that, you leave the door open in the draft, to possibly. I know they need help on defense and all that good stuff. I get it, but you got to leave that door open to fill the shoes of Lane Johnson if you can. There's there's a couple good tackles in this draft. I'm not saying they got to trade up for him. I don't know what they do, but you see Aaron Donald retired, and I'm not saying Lane's thinking that, but you keep getting banged up, and we know how bad the Eagles are record-wise when he doesn't play. Mm-hmm. So there has to start to be a plan B. If he shuts her down.
No, it sweeps. You're absolutely right. I was going to say, there's worse tackles to put a rookie, but first year playing like a Tyler Steen next to than Lane Johnson, right? But yeah. I think this offseason so far, Sweeps, you nailed it on the head. I think at 22, they're going offensive line, whether that's a guard, a tackle. Obviously, it's probably gonna be tackle at 22, right? You don't usually draft many guards that early unless they're mooses, but you're drafting your replacement for Lane at 22. Because of the way they've done free agency, right? You've gotten some help. We get Isaiah Rodgers back, so the need to go corner like we all thought, or thought coming out. You're getting Rodgers back to go with all the guys that you already have. You signed Gardner-Johnson, so you don't necessarily need to go safety, right? You got and we know they're not going linebacker. They passed on so many linebackers in the first round.
We're just gave $7.5 million to
Devin
White too.
Yeah, so, correct.
Yeah,
so they're all setting up for offensive line.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
it's going to be boring, but we know that's what Howie does.
despite all the analytics, we'll see what kind of year that he has. You know what I mean? Because everybody tells you how terrible he is and all that good stuff. So we'll see.
Listen, I think a guy who's been an all-pro in this league, which is obviously a harder vote than a Pro Bowler, and it's only 26. Sometimes that changes scenery, something different. 1-year deal lights a fire, and maybe you can get the best version of Devin White because he can play. I don't think there's a question if he can play or not. It's a question. There's been some other questions, health, etc. So, but they're sort of where they want to be on the defensive side of the football. So to Greg's point, absolutely see tackle, offensive line in the first round. If not the first round, the second round, right?
Right. Yeah.
You don't always have to hit. They've proven it with Jeff Stoutland that they don't need to necessarily hit in the first round. I mean, both their guards, one's now a center, but they're both first round, second round picks. Sorry. When you look at Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson.
And sometimes
go ahead, Sweeps. No, I can't say because I'm looking at the depth chart.
I'm just saying, sometimes, like you said, when it changes scenery, that's why I throw all the analytics out the window because I don't know by watching the Bucs day in and day out what kind of interior linemen they have on defense. If the offensive linemen are getting to him, then that's how you end up at the bottom against the run. You know what I mean? The Eagles got a couple young bucks up front. Couple road graders, on defense, and he might be able to run free in this defense. All right, in this scheme, and then make some plays, and we'll see. If he ends up last against the run, then
Yeah, I wanted to show you guys. This defense too, to your point, Greg, right? When you look at it on paper, and right now, obviously, I don't know why, there's Bryce Huff, but obviously when you look at Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, and you got Reddick, you got Sweat and Huff and Graham. You could probably use another D tackle, right?
Yeah.
And then you got Dean, White, and then you brought in Baun. Zack Baun, and you brought in Oren Burks, right?
Yep.
So you got 4 linebackers per se. I don't see them going out of their way to draft one in the first round now. Doesn't mean they don't, but I don't see them going out of the way. Now in the secondary, okay, I could see that in the first or second round, right? Either or, because that's a position I still think they need some work on. Or like I said, D tackle. But to our point is, up front somewhere looks to be the way they're going by what they've addressed in free agency, right? Mm-hmm. Or what they have coming back, because they're obviously in a win now type of mode too.
And we know that's where Howie thrives too, right? That's where Howie and the draft team, that's where they hit most of the time, right? Is those early interior linemen either side of the ball, right?
And whatever they decide to do, they got to tackle better as a unit. You know what I mean? And we all know that. You know what I mean? That stretch, that collapse down the stretch was, there are a lot of things. There's a lot of fingerprints on it, but I don't know if there was a worse tackling team in the NFL. You know what I mean? Obviously the playoff game was so glaring and so atrocious, but those 7-8 weeks, they were atrocious tackling.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was that? What was that?
Me?
What was
the
noise?
Was crinking the can.
Oh my gosh!
Shit.
I'm like looking around me. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? But it was me.
What do I do with my hands?
That guy was just getting after.
Mom,
he was on fire right there.
What is she?
He was on fire.
I never know what she's doing.
But to your point, though, Sweets, about them needing to tackle better. You brought in 2 guys already that you hope help shore up your tackling a little bit. 3 guys. I mean, I'm not going to say Huff, but you brought in 3 starters to your defense, which sort of starts to change the identity of not tackling. Mm-hmm. You hope, right? The more guys you can bring in as starters can sort of change that identity a little bit. Umberto says, Tom's. There's not 2 of us. Tom, there's concerns about Devin White level of play. Last season was ranked worse than Cunningham and Morrow. Pro Football Focus. He's a great athlete, though. Yeah, neither Cunningham or Morrow were 6 picks at a draft. Neither one of those guys were all pros at any point of their career. So I'll hold out hope that he just had a bad year. right? Let's hold out hope he had a bad year, and then we can get some lightning in the bottle, right? Because that's all you're looking for.
Yep.
I mean,
with all these guys, right? With all
$7.5 million. It's a low risk, high reward.
Yep.
Okay. You went out and got and addressed your two big issues, right? One, get a 3-down back so nobody knows what you're running when you're running it. Okay. That's numero uno. Which I'm a big fan of guys who can stay on the field, right? Because I just think you just you don't allow defenses to key in on what we thought was a predictable offense and what a lot of people did too, right? So the more you can make yourself less predictable, I'm a fan of, right? And then you go out and get CJ Gardner-Johnson and Bryce Huff. Those three moves right there are big moves. Whatever you do after that is just trying to find little pieces that can help you win for a year.
Yeah.
The plug and play, if we get half a Devin White, that's better than Morrow and Cunningham. And if Nakobe Dean's healthy and those two guys are your starting linebackers, well, that's a lot better than what you had if both are healthy. But this is why we talk about on paper in March, and we're not playing the games yet.
Yeah, and you look at the way we've addressed the linebacker position in the past, right? It just last year those low risk, high reward guys just didn't pay off, right? They just didn't pay off. Those 1-year guys hoping to light a fire, they just didn't pay off. So hopefully this year they pay off a little bit more, right? You get half the guy Devin White was, right? Or you get Zack Baun to take a step up because he's only on a 1-year deal, right? Or the guy we just signed from San Fran, right? Like, not saying these guys are superstars. They're not, right? We know what they are. But if any of those guys has a better year than what they've shown in the past, we've hit on those picks or those signings.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're getting year 2 out of Jalen Carter.
Right.
Right. So
and potentially a pissed off year after not winning the defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, and you get a third year out of Jordan Davis, where he hopes to step. Milton Williams is going into like his air quotes senior year.
Yep.
Which I like.
And his contract year.
So, I think somebody in the chat asked, what were you gonna say, Sweeps?
No, there's a lot of key. Like I said, there's a lot of keys to that defense. But CJ, probably the top of the list is CJ's got to stay healthy. You know what I mean? He played 3 games last year. So.
Yeah, it's crazy to have him back.
Yep.
Right. He's definitely more injury prone than Saquon is.
For sure.
I mean, Saquon, I wouldn't go around saying he's injury prone. I'll just say I watched enough Giants games and know what kind of line he ran through and had to run behind and know the kind of plays he made from nothing. So I'm just a believer if you give a guy like that something, he could rush for 1,800, 2K if they gave him the ball enough. And that's where I compare him to Christian McCaffrey. Like, Christian McCaffrey was great in Carolina, but he was injury prone, right? He was always banged up a little bit, but he was a monster when he was on the field, right? He gives to San Fran. He's been healthy. He's been, arguably healthy, and a better offensive line, a better team. And then it's like, there he is, because he's not taking as much wear and tear too. Like in Carolina and in New York, it's the whole offense ran through them. Where in Carolina it runs through him. I get it, but it doesn't. Right? It does and doesn't. So Saquon, it's going to run through him, but it doesn't. Right? It can run through AJ. It can run through DaVonta. It can run through Dallas. It can run through Jalen. It has other guys to run through.
Football. Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to run through him completely. And I think that allows guys to stay healthier, a.k.a. DeAndre Swift.
DeAndre Swift said, yeah, absolutely.
Right? A.k.a. DeAndre Swift. Healthier year this year when everybody said how banged up he was. Well, those Detroit teams weren't this year's Detroit team. Right? This Detroit team was way better than when DeAndre was there. They were getting better. But it was better. And plus, I think Gibbs was a home run pick. I said that on draft night because that was a great pick by them, where everybody yelled and screamed, "What are they doing? What are they doing over there?" They're just getting better. Just getting better.
When you do all the right pieces around, that's what they were building over there. You build all the right pieces. The first home run they hit was Penny. You know what I mean? So that's how you build around him, and then you can get the skill
over Jamar Chase.
That's how you can get the skill guys, right? When you have a game changer up front, then you can get, and obviously Campbell came in and changed the whole culture and the rest, and we know how that story is unfolding, right now. You know what I mean? And that's what you got to do. You know what I mean? So anybody with eyes knew how special Barkley was. You know what I mean? You can have a different opinion about drafting somebody at 2, like the big fella who's out, with his green glasses on and having a good time. He is of the opinion he don't take.
Bring your green hat.
He don't like to take running backs in the top 5, and that's fine. That's an opinion. That's an opinion you can have. You know what I mean? But when you got a game changer, somebody like a Barkley, a McCaffrey, the kid from Texas, Dijon Mustard. You know what I mean? Like, they're guys you can take in the top 5. They're offense changers. You know what I mean? But if you like, the reason why we laughed at the Giants is because they had nothing around them, and then they signed Daniel Jones to $1 billion. $1 billion. You know what I mean? And that's why we laugh at it. But and then obviously he suffered some injuries, but I mean, don't get it twisted. He's special. I mean, Saquon's awesome.
And in typical Giants fashion, they add offensive line pieces after they let go of Barkley.
Yeah, now we'll protect Daniel Jones.
Now we'll protect him.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I would want to shove it up there. You know what, too.
Yeah.
But either way, we're loaded. That's the great thing about it. We are flat out loaded right now, and it feels good to say that. And I know, I get it. I know we're just talking free agency, and you don't win a Super Bowl in free agency, but you can get yourself closer to one. Mm-hmm. Right? You can get yourself sure as hell a lot closer to win the Super Bowl in free agency. And that's where Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles set themselves up here. Because the way they collapsed, you had to go out and make some splashes. Right? You had to go out and put your one on a table. That you had to go out and do that after this. And right now, the updated 2024 Super Bowl odds, they're 8th. Right? Before that collapse. After that collapse, they'd probably be like 15th or 16th. Because you didn't know what they were going to be. But they brought some of their own back. Josh Sweat comes back. We'll see about Reddick.
I like that deal, though, too, right?
We needed one of the two back at minimum.
Yes.
Right? Go ahead, Greg. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and you set yourself up in a position by signing Huff to say, all right, I don't need to trade either of you guys, right? We don't necessarily want to, but if the offer's out there, then yeah, we will take it. We'll let you go. But I love them coming back and signing a guy like Sweat to a 1 year, give him a little cushion, give him a little guarantee. But it's the same thing. He's now up again. He's in a contract year. You don't think he's going to try and ball out again?
Listen, it's a good place. It's a good place to be. All right. So
yeah,
as Tom alluded to, like, yeah, you don't win on paper, you don't win a championship on paper. And, but you would rather win free agency than lose free agency.
That's for sure.
You know what I mean? So that's, if you look at it like that, it's like, yeah, sure. Games still got to be played and guys got to produce and coaches got to coach, players got to play. But, I'd sure rather win free agency. I love what the Eagles are doing.
I'd rather be the Eagles right now than the Cowboys.
Over the Dolphins. Yeah, sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, right. Any teams that aren't necessarily getting better doesn't mean those teams will have bad years, right? You're not like guaranteeing that at all because honestly, it's the NFL, right? We've had this conversation a million times. Anything can happen. But if you think the Philadelphia Eagles are the best offense in the NFC, pound that like, hit that subscribe, turn your notifications on, stay with Agree, Disagree, and A2D Radio. And we see over like 200 people watching on Twitter. Hit that subscribe over there. Hit that follow button. And on YouTube, get us over.
We're less than 100 likes. We're less than 100 subscribers on YouTube. Get us over 10,000. Let's go.
Let's go. Over 10.
If you haven't subscribed, let's go. Get us to 10K.
It's a click of a button, baby.
You're already here. We love you.
We do. Umberto says, all these moves don't mean shit if Jalen doesn't return to being a great protector of the football. 18 turnovers is absurd. Facts. And to Umberto's point, absolutely. Absolutely. You're not going to win football games and turn the football over at that rate. We know that. We've had those conversations, and this is why all eyeballs are on Jalen Hurts in 2024. Stefano says, I think it's going to be between Eagles and Washington. What, you mean the division? I mean, maybe, because the Giants stink, and the Cowboys, I don't know what Dallas is.
Losing Tyron Smith is huge for the Cowboys.
Yep.
I know he's getting up there in age, but he was a rock. right? He was our Lane Johnson. He was our Jason Peters for that long, right? Like he was a rock as a tackle on that offensive line. I think it's a huge get for the New York Jets.
Back juice. Get some back juice. Some back
shots.
Never took back shots in the locker room.
Uh-huh.
I come on Twitter to defend myself. Nobody's ever touched me. Nobody's ever
That's
touched
amazing.
Me.
Nobody's ever finished on me. Very conscious of that. Thank you for the update. That's amazing.
Robert said we're not loaded on defense, and that's why we need to draft defense with every pick. Well, we don't have to draft with every pick, Rob. But we're sure as hell aren't bad on defense like we were last year. We're already better. On paper, we're already better. Okay? We just are. We got another pass rush specialist here. We got a better linebacking core, and we got a better safety play. So we're already better. Now, listen, I don't think you get one way or the other when you're talking draft day, right? You're talking taking the best players, right? You can't go like, oh, I'm just going to take all defense. No, if a tackle's on the board and that's the best player, take it. If it's a corner, take it. If it's a D tackle, take it. Don't go reach late. You know what I mean? Go for needs after the third round.
While we might not be loaded, we're not in a bad spot when it comes to our defense. When you look at like depth, sure, there might not be the star power or with our defense anymore because the likes of Slay and Bradbury aren't what they were, right? Cox is gone, obviously. But you look at our depth back there in their secondary, they like a lot of those young guys. It's the reason they're holding on to them, right? Like when you cut away Avonte Maddox and just let him go, I know he's hurt already. But when you cut a guy like Avonte Maddox, you obviously have a plan B in mind, whether that's Isaiah Rodgers, whether that's Josh Jobe, Keely Ringo, right? They like these guys. So while there's the star power and the on paper doesn't jump out at you, I don't think we're in as bad as a spot on defense as, who was it? Like he was making them out to be, right? And a lot of people are making it out to be.
Yep.
SJM says, what we haven't mentioned concerning Saquon Barkley, locker room leader as well, how he added an elite athlete who's buy-in and will improve the existing culture. So yeah, I think you got another good locker room guy for sure. Angry Bear says, I'm drafting defense. If we're switching to 3-4, we're going to need a stud edge rusher and depth at linebacker.
Well, we have our edge rushers if we switch. That's Sweat, Reddick, and Huff, right? Like,
yeah, that's what we have.
That's what those guys become, right? Those guys jump in that TJ Watt mold, right?
Yeah, I just think you take the best player. I mean, you start going this way, you get yourself in trouble. Robert, no, I mean, they talked about it. They might trade Reddick, but it hasn't been confirmed. Nothing's happened yet.
Yeah,
they might work out a restructure. So we'll see where it goes. Now, how would you guys grade this offseason?
It's funny. If you would have asked me this last week, or when it first happened, I probably wouldn't have graded it so high, right? With the assumption that Barkley was counting so much against the cap, right? Figuring it was hurting potentially other moves, right? Just because in a cap era, right? But knowing that he's costing us nothing on the cap. I mean, how is this offseason not an A right now or an A+?
Yeah, you started it with a head shake, because he was getting more money than other guys. But
right.
Who the hell cares in the grand scheme of things? Because it was the way it worked out. It wasn't
correct. Right. It totally changed my tune.
There was no penalty for it. So, I mean, it's got to be a B+. You know what I mean? On paper. B+, yeah, A- type for me.
Yeah, I'm just a solid A.
Yeah.
I'm a solid A. I think the 3 impact guys you brought in make you better. I think Devin White, that really put me at a hard A. Yep. I know a lot of people don't want to do that and don't want to go there, but it's not like I signed a guy on a 4-year deal, right? So I have no problem with that, especially with a guy like Nakobe who's been banged up. I just need to find ways to get better there, and I would have liked Jerome Baker from Miami, obviously a little bit more than Devin White, but I think Devin White has maybe some higher upside in a 1 year than Baker. I don't know. They're close. I think Baker's probably been more consistent.
Yeah, I've seen him more. He's the defensive signal caller. Not saying White isn't or wasn't, but
wasn't he like
Baker's a leader, man? Baker's a
like a man of the year. Wasn't like man of the year? Like
he's just coming off two injuries, which was a killer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he was like man of the year down there, Greg. He's like one of those guys.
Yeah.
So I think you're getting a better. He's a Seattle guy for sure. Fits right into Seattle's culture, Pete Carroll culture before Pete. Now Pete's not there, but you get where I'm going. Those types of guys. But I do love the Devin White put me at like an A, and then just like the little stuff they've done, like DaVonta Parker. It's little. It's not great, but you just add it on to what you've done. If you just go give me Devin White and DaVonta Parker, I'm scratching my head. But when you add the CJ Gardner-Johnson, the Bryce Huff, and Saquon, the Bryce Huff's the most underrated move of all of them. Right? I said this on Wednesday night. Saquon's going to draw the eyeballs, but Bryce Huff's going to get after the quarterback, and that wins in this league. That wins. Yeah. And for a defensive front that couldn't get home last year, we sure as hell could have used him a couple of times, couldn't we have? So Bryce Huff's the name, and we're going to, again, not a run stopper, not going to say any of that. But when you talk about pressure and sacks, I mean, goodness gracious. For his snap count, he's in double-digit sacks. Like, that's hard to do. It's hard to do.
And people want to diminish it by saying, half his sacks or 3/4 of his sacks were against backups, right? Backup tackles and stuff like that. Well, we couldn't be backup tackles last year.
Yeah.
We could be anyway. But what do the Eagles do best with those type of guys, right? Well, because now you're adding Bryce Huff to Josh Sweat to Hassan Reddick to Nolan Smith to Brandon Grant, right? You're adding just to a rotation. And you're keeping these guys fresh so when they are on the field, they have that burst. They have that juice that you lose when these guys are on the field 50, 60 snaps per game.
Yeah. That's big too.
Yeah, and Tommy, getting back to the off-season grade and stuff like that so far, and it's just like, a bunch of one-year guys. Well, that worked out for us in 2018. Right, when we brought in the Chris Longs, we brought in the Patrick Robinsons, right? We brought in these guys all 1 year deals.
It went well for us, not even dating back that long.
Right.
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago we did it. There, right.
Yep. And think about the names we brought in 2 years ago.
CJ Gardner-Johnson was one of them, right? You know what I mean? It ended up trade and stuff like that. But all you need for these guys to hit, like a couple of these guys to hit, and when they happen, they pay off. But what's best about it is when you're signing these guys to 1 year deals, it doesn't preclude you or stop you from doing anything in the draft. Whereas if you were signing White to a 4-year, 5-year deal, then maybe you don't draft a linebacker early, right? Maybe you take a project linebacker in the 3rd, 4th round. Well, now you can if you see a guy there on your board and it's in the 2nd round, 3rd round, you're like, all right, Trotter's son, let's go. Let's bring you home, right? It doesn't preclude you from not doing that because all these guys are just 1-year deals.
No, you're right. You're right. It allows you a lot of flexibility. Dubba says edge pressure still scares me in terms of production because last year was such a significant drop off from the year before that. Bringing the same guys back isn't exactly comforting. No, but you added to that. Like that's where Bryce Huff comes in. You added to that. Now that allows some of those other guys to not have to take so many snaps. And knowing the Eagles, you're not counting Nolan Smith's snap counts.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're going obviously he's going to get a higher snap count. So I think that's what they're trying to redo again here is that type of front they had, back in 2017, obviously, but, even the front they had 2 years ago. John said he's more worried about defensive tackle. I think that's a concern. Just being deeper for sure. Robert says if we get Simmons, I think he's talking about Isaiah Simmons.
I would assume, yeah.
We're at an A+. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Isaiah Simmons. I feel like people are still stuck on him on draft night, and then he was positional. I mean, I can't speak on Isaiah Simmons because I'm not going to sit here and try to lie. Like I watched him.
Justin Simmons.
Justin Simmons. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. See, I would be an A+. Agreed. I don't think you have to overpay for him either.
Well, I think that might be part of why he's still out there, though. Is he might be commanding a lot, right? And and like it or not, I think that the Eagles like Reed Blankenship, and I think they were intrigued by Sidney Brown. So I don't know that they're going to go out and sign 2 free agent safeties to bring in. But he did play under Fangio, so all that being said, it wouldn't shock me tomorrow if he signed.
Ben Simmons, Martian.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, I got it. Justin Simmons, my bad. I've heard people talk about Isaiah Simmons too, but I thought he was still under contract. So that's why it always confused me. But yeah, no, Justin Simmons, to me, if you can get him on a 2-year deal, you're not, if you got to pay a little bit extra, go ahead. But, I'll give him the same kind of money Byard got, really. Because Kevin Byard was that kind of pickup per se before he proved that he couldn't play here, right? So, he that same type of money is like where I think Simmons is at this point in his career too. But I'm not a fan of Blankenship either, just because I think he's just banged up all the time, which makes me not a fan. But, I do like him when he's on the field. Weaver says, what about Patrick Surtain? Well, what about how many first-round picks you're trying to give up, Weave? You know what I mean? That's that question. How many firsts you trying to give up for Patrick?
Yeah.
Because that's not going to come with it's
not a pick
second.
spot.
Yeah, it's not a second-round pick. You got to give up. You got to give up a lot for that, and rightfully so. But I mean, I'm in, and Howie, if he can fleece, he'll fleece. Yeah, second-team All-Pro. Kevin Byard was probably a second-team All-Pro last year, if not the year before. Not this year, but the previous year in Tennessee, he probably was in that conversation, I'm sure. So they're similar. Simmons is better, I think. And he's played under Fangio before, which I always think is a win. The more guys he can get. I think I said it's about the linebacker in situation on Wednesday before they signed Devin White. If you think Vic Fangio isn't going to have a say in what goes on defensively here, I think we're crazy because he just would retire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He would just retire. The only reason he's coaching here is because it's close to home. So, right, he would say, well, I'm just not going to coach it. I'll just retire if I'm not going to be able to have some say in what goes on here personnel-wise. Hence Huff, hence CJ GJ, right?
Yeah.
Those 2 names right there on Devin White. So you talk about 3 names already added. Yeah, so, I could see that one too. Absolutely. Absolutely. What up, Swoop?
What's up,
Weaver
Brian?
says he would give up 2 firsts and maybe a depth player. Would you guys give up 2 firsts? If you give up 2 firsts with Patrick Surtain, hit that like, hit that subscribe, stay with us, baby. All right, do you guys do that? You guys give up 2 firsts and a depth piece?
No, I don't do it.
That's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot, man.
And I know he's special, and I know he's really good, but
yeah,
I don't give up 2 firsts.
Robert, we did not talk about baby hands quite
especially
yet.
when you're trying to rebuild. I mean, not rebuild. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
they're built to win now. You hate to give up picks, but I mean, I guess you can go both ways. I mean, he is awesome. So
Yeah, you hit.
yeah.
So at least you have that.
Mhm.
Where there's 2 picks you couldn't miss. So depends
Yep.
how much you value it. No, Rob, we haven't really talked baby hands. I don't think it's a bad decision for Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll just leave it at there. we don't want to be playing a backup quarterback, period, in this league. So I don't want to care who the backup is, but it's another low risk, high reward. Right? I don't think you're getting a high reward out of Kenny Pickett ever, but that's what it is. And it's a backup goddamn quarterback. So not mad at you, Rob. Just I think people think we're getting Nick Foles every time we get a backup. You got to hope the starter is good enough, or it doesn't matter. Stefano, neither. I don't like Pickett or Fields, but I guess Fields is better.
For sure, yeah,
because of what he can do with his legs. And Fields, sure, but he's not going to get a chance to start here. Where Pittsburgh, he's got a chance to go win a job.
Well, apparently not. Apparently they said it's Russ's job. They've already said that. So which makes it even stranger.
Well, no, because Russ on a 1-year deal.
Yeah. And you didn't give up anything for him, right? And
yeah, they can find out. They can find out if Fields is the quarterback of the future for him or not.
I'm not convinced Fields isn't flipped at the draft or in minicamp anyway. I'm not convinced they're not just they're just not going to trade him themselves.
Could be,
because I think Chicago screwed that up.
But I don't think Pickett's a bad backup quarterback. That's all. I think it's
you could have worse. You get Marcus Mariota.
I mean, guy's in his 3rd year. We're acting like, with all due respect to him too, like he didn't have 2 good years in Pittsburgh at all. But I mean, it's 2 years into his career.
Yeah,
like we're not asking him to start, but if you need him in a pinch, like maybe he could refine himself a little bit. I mean, I don't think he was ever good to begin with, but that was my opinion on draft night. But
I think
again, I think there's worse backups. And if you're playing the backup, you're probably not winning football games anyway.
Facts.
Joseph says, do we draft the cornerback in the 1st round? We could. I don't see that. I don't see that being a direction, but we could. I think I tend to lean with Greg. I think offensive line, defensive line, more tackle-wise on both. More D tackle, O tackle. And I could even, like if Edgerrin Cooper dropped for some reason, I could absolutely see that. Because I think Howie's changed his stripes now. The Saquon is a stripe changer right there.
Yeah.
And it is what it isn't. Because
projecting Cooper to be a 1st rounder?
Some do, some don't.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know who you have in the 1st round linebacker, but it ain't him.
Yeah, I didn't recall seeing anybody. I thought most of the linebackers were all 2nd, 3rd rounders. But no, I mean I love that name. It
changes. It changes all the time.
Sure. Yeah. I love that name though. He's obviously super, super talented for sure.
What free agency player that's left would you want on the Eagles?
Oh, that's a tough one.
I'll go Justin Simmons then, because we just talked about him. Right, and I'll go him.
I will go.
Who's left? I mean, it's been a musical chairs, off season. I mean, it's just everybody. I feel like everybody's left. There was, that 4-day window last week where it was just every alert was, somebody was ending up somewhere else. It was bananas.
Yeah, I'll stay on the reclamation project side. I'll go J.K. Dobbins.
Oh, well, J.K. Dobbins, huh?
Obviously he's hurt, but like if he's any bit of healthy, you can flip him or just we only have Gainwell and Barkley on the roster, right? So you need a little depth.
J.K. just got hurt, as you mentioned his name.
He probably did.
As you said his name, he just got hurt.
He tore another ACL.
No surprise.
Guy. Jesus.
He tore another ACL.
No, I think Justin Simmons would really shore up this back end and allow you to play CJ more in like the slot, more up at the line a little bit more. So I think it give you a lot more flexibility on what you're trying to do. And then another Vic guy. I just believe the more comfortability you can get in free agency with players, the better. Right? When you can bring in the guys in the comfortability levels, I think matters for sure. Why even get Kenny? He goes more draft capital than Fields. I don't know.
You need 3 quarterbacks. So it is what it is. We need 3 quarterbacks.
All right, real quick before we get out of here. Who's cutting the nets down?
I got UConn on a repeat.
Yeah, I mean they're very, very they're amazing. So I mean that's everybody's landing there. So if I want to go different because I try to you try to not buck the system, but I would probably land on Tennessee. Tennessee's my next pick. But UConn's awesome. I do think they repeat. They're they're a wagon right now. You know what I mean, they're just, but Iowa State is at the bottom of that one as the 2 seed, and Iowa State's pretty good. So,
They are good.
Could Iowa State get them? Could Arizona get them in the Final Four? Or North Carolina, whoever comes out of that bottom, they could. Anybody.
Jinx.
Anything's possible. But I think it's. I'm looking at UConn, Arizona. See, the South to me is wide open. It shouldn't be, because Houston was, the best.
South is wide open.
Houston was one of the, obviously with UConn. Houston and UConn were the 2 best teams all season.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but you just lost by 30. How did they recover from that? Like you said, it's just one game, might not mean anything. That second round matchup, if A&M wins, I think is a monster game, and that's where Houston could get beat, because I like A&M. But if not, then Kentucky's down. Kentucky's there, and that's it's kind of wide open. If Marquette, if Kolek's okay, if Kolek's healthy, Marquette's tough. So the South to me is pretty tough. It's pretty tough. Florida
and Duke's in there, Texas Tech's in there.
Yeah, I kind of like Vermont in that first matchup. I did just Duke being Duke, you know what I mean? So
100%.
I hear
you. Like those blue blood types of teams, right?
Yeah. Florida,
Wisconsin,
Florida,
Kentucky.
Florida lost their big man today. Yeah, they just lost their big man today, so that's tough for them. But anyway, that's wide open, and I think the bottom Purdue doesn't move the needle for me.
Nope.
And that's why I love Tennessee. And I think that
Creighton coming out of there.
And I think Creighton's very good, and I think there's some shockers down there. I think McNeese State they're Gonzaga. I love Gonzaga. Mark Few's done an amazing job, but McNeese State can win 2 games in this tournament. You know what I mean? They can get to the Sweet 16.
Especially if Kansas State's banged up, right?
They're tough. No, Kansas is banged up. I like Stanford in that first match. Stanford, sorry, Stanford. Yeah, I think Stanford.
But Kansas is one of those teams as a 4 seed, though. If they're healthy, they can
make
a run, right?
Of course, yeah. So.
Yeah, I was probably going to say I was going to go on Tennessee where sweeps was
nice.
But I was going to say that South is wide open. Like even in Kentucky, anybody in the South you could say come out of it. But I even like Carolina to maybe come out of that, or even Arizona. So it's there's some teams, but UConn is the obvious clear favorite to repeat. So I probably wouldn't put them in like. If I did 10 brackets, I'd probably only put them in like a couple.
Yeah, trying to be different.
I would mix and match and try to hunt for one of those sleepers. But it is like look around from that 4 to 7, 8 range. Who are some of those teams that can get the Elite Eights, can get the Final Fours, and maybe really catch them lightning in the bottle. Who's got great guard play, right? Who's got great guard play and that like solid enough big man. Right, that's what the whole tournament's about. That's why Kentucky's a sleeper too, right? Yeah, they had the firepower at guard. They didn't necessarily put it all together at points this year, but they definitely have the firepower. And in that South where it's a little wide open, they could be a team coming out of the South too over there. So
and that's exactly.
A great time of the year. Great time of the year. Awesome. A2D's doing brackets, so you can Venmo me if you're in the A2D Real Talk group. $24 bracket. And we're taking one bracket a person, so we're not going to do 10 brackets, anything. So I like the one bracket, get in for a 25 spot. You can Venmo me Thomas, our known one. I'll even put it up here in the chat for anyone who wants to hop in. Not one. I gave you the wrong Venmo. Say guys talking and trying to type at the same time and deliver the wrong Venmo. I will add that in here.
Yeah, and Auburn's tough too. I see SJM in there saying Auburn.
Auburn's they're playing fantastic. Like I said, there's Baylor's good. Like I said, Iowa State's awesome. If they just happen to end up with UConn. I mean, if they end up in the South, I like them to come out of the South. You know what I mean? Or if they were anywhere else. You know what I mean? I just and they very well could still beat UConn. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they can't. They're just they're tough. Iowa State's really tough. So. It's going to be awesome. Like you said, it's the best time of the year. We love it. And, it's just, there's some intriguing matchups. Like I said, McNeese, You know, I mean, they say they can win a couple games. You know, Gonzaga's got to be like, damn, dude, we were playing well. We were playing down the stretch. That's where we had to end up. You know, and even St. Mary's, Grand Canyon's really good. I mean,
they are.
Bryce Drew's done a great job with them.
Yeah.
You know, the end of that game was a disgrace, and I don't know if those kids were seniors. For UT Arlington, but there should be some discipline other than you know the technical foul and the ejections. You know what I mean? Like we've all been there. Like you know, I don't agree with the dunk. Right? But I don't. You can't forearm shiver and then lost in the forearm shiver. The kids threw the ball to dude, and the kids, the other kid's one of the best dodgeball players in the country. I mean, he drilled them from like 50 feet away with the basketball. You know what I mean? So, you know, I'm all for being full of piss and vinegar, and I don't like when people do that shit to me either. But, you know, part of me has also said, hey, and I need my team to play better too. You know what I mean?
Facts.
Yeah.
Don, Indiana State missing is a bummer. I definitely wanted to see nerdy Jokic playing on a big stage.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they just, you know, like you talked about the other, like when you were busting chops the other day, like those, you know, the five steals, the 5 bid steals or 4 or 5 bid steals, you know, they were one of the teams that, you know,
St. John's,
they got cost. Well, he's gonna be my Crumb, you know. And you know whether we're starting now or not.
Go ahead.
You know? And I'm a huge Patino guy, and I loved what he did. I don't care about names. I don't care about this generation. I don't care what you're supposed to do. I loved what he did 4 weeks ago. Right. Mm-hmm. That being said, anybody that fucking declines an NIT bid is an asshole. Is an absolute asshole and a crumb. It's an opportunity for a possible month more of basketball for your team. You're depriving your players, right? Your coaches. And if you're into development and you're into, you know, getting kids better, and if you have seniors, it gives them an opportunity for a couple more weeks, you know, and you get a chance to win something. So, you know, to anybody that does that, you're you know, the spite. You think you're going to spite the NCAA, but we're not going to accept the NIT. We belong in the dance. That's great. You weren't even in consideration. 5 weeks ago, when you made that rant, you told us how bad your team was, right? And then your team went on a run, and they didn't lose until they lost to UConn 95-90. So the team rallied around themselves. I don't know if they gave you the big middle finger, Pitino, or not, but they rallied around and they played, and they were playing great. Don't get me wrong, right? But you didn't do enough early, right? And you were the one that told us they weren't good enough, right? You told us that, Rick. Right. And now you want to get on your soapbox and say you did enough. We did it the right way. We played a tough schedule. You very well might have. Right. But, you know, there was 4 or 5 bids that were stolen this weekend. This weekend, things got turned upside down.
They did.
Right? And even without that, I don't know if they were even close. You know what I mean? Like as close as he thinks. You know what I mean? And I would have had him in had not been for some of these bids that got stolen. You know what I mean? So I have no problem with that little rant. Anybody that turns down the NIT, I think is stupid, foolish, and an egomaniac. And you are acting like you're bigger than the program and you want to make a statement, and it's horseshit. It's horseshit.
Facts. I'm going to go back a week on my Crumb. And first I want to praise him for being a hero and coming back from, a career-threatening injury. Kyle Filipowski, I mean, he had that bruised knee and that, swollen ankle after getting trampled by a 160-pound kid that he tried to push and kick himself. But so, I mean, he's a national, hero, and, got so glad he was able to come back from that career-threatening injury. But to trip the kid from North Carolina in the middle of the game, like no one saw it, right? Like no one saw it. And I'm so, I know all the Dookie fans are gonna be all up in arms, but he's a Crumb, and he was a Crumb during the whole court storming situation, and he's even a bigger Crumb now after trying to kick a kid and trip the kid. So yeah, Kyle Filipowski, good job.
Yeah, Crumb brula.
Yep, I agree, Spells. That's all it is, buddy. Stupid. It's an egotistical move, and you just think you're bigger, you're bigger than the program, and everybody's here to see you. You know what I mean? And it's not what it should be. You know what I mean? It's we saw what you did in the NBA, right, Rick? Right? We saw what you did in the NBA. So wasn't for you, buddy. Right? So you're a career college guy, and that's okay, man. Like that's awesome. You know what I mean? And I'm a fan of yours. Right?
So if you're a career college guy, you're about development.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
Development.
That's why I don't agree. That's why I disagree with this. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
If you're a career college guy, that's what your game's about.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's about winning, sure, but it's about getting players better. My Crumb's to everybody out there, because there's a lot of people who are doing it all over Twitter too. Like the begging for Justin Fields. I'm going to circle back to that conversation. Like the begging for it. Why? So the second Jalen doesn't play good, we're yelling for Fields. Like, do we really want to go through that? We don't want to go through that here in this city, right? And Kenny's fine, something like that. Not as much glamour to the name, but why would we be like those same people that are like Hurts guys are begging for Fields? Well, if Hurts is your answer, why do we care about Fields? That's all. And why do we care about the backup? Until he can't play, then we're looking for another starter. That's how it works. Like we find out Jalen can't play, we're not looking for the backup. We're looking for another starter. That's how it works. So, what up, Keys? What up, baby?
The other guy might be the same dude, just bigger.
Yeah. This guy's 6'3", but he needs gloves. Yeah, this guy's 6'3", but he needs a pair of gloves. He needs a pair of isotherms.
I mean, Fields.
I was talking myself. I was talking myself into it, but I wasn't screaming for him.
Good night, Eileen. Thanks for stopping in. No, we just don't want that, Don. We don't want that factory.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm one of the guys that thinks I think he's better than most people think he is. You know what I mean? But no, by no means do I think he's like, the top tier quarterback. I just think he was in a terrible situation, and I thought he did enough there to warrant, coming back. Now I know, Caleb Williams is God, so we'll see. You better be, because you got enough demands and you got a lot of stuff going on. You're not going to throw. You're not going to throw. You're not going to get a physical. Doing a lot of diva stuff, buddy. So you better be the next fucking best thing. If not, I'm gonna laugh all the way.
You better be Deion Sanders.
Woo-wee.
Right? You better be that kind of impact player.
Woo-wee.
And that defense gave you issues, and they don't have a defense.
Yep.
And about the tight end position. What up, Derek? About the tight end position. Yeah, I mean, Bill brought up tight end. Are we concerned? Yeah, I mean, I can see him drafting one for sure. SJM said Bowers. If that somehow fell into our lap, absolutely.
Yeah, it's that top 10 pick.
Yeah, so I don't know how that does, but if it does, sure. I'm in, and I'm in for somebody besides him. I'm in to try to get a younger player in here for sure, especially with Dallas's injury history as well. So, pretty simple. Pretty simple. But listen, great show, boys, as always. Oh, here goes Spells. Duke's cutting down nets. Bill Pasky's your butt, Jobo, Greg. Jubo. Yeah. Dukey's baby.
I know he's here.
We always know when you're around, Spells.
Yeah.
Glad you got to stand on the plaster, though, Spells. That was awesome. Look like a good time, buddy.
Dukey might not make it out of the first round.
That's hallowed ground, my friend.
Oh, that's such a special arena.
Love to step on there myself.
Well, there's been some reports that the Bears might just sign Carson Wentz and draft Marvin Harrison Jr. number 1.
That would be the best thing to do.
Which might, funnily, like I made a post about it today, but funny, talking about it, that might be the smartest decision they can make.
Yeah, I mean, you already
got your. Yeah. I mean, Carson just might turn the ball over 25 times, but besides that,
I mean, what is
Caleb Williams? 5,000 yards. Yeah, he'll throw 5,000 yards.
But if they were, I hear you. It's that would be hilarious. And I love Marvin Harrison, so there's nothing wrong with that. But why not just keep Fields if you were going to do that?
Yeah.
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah, for that 4th round pick, right? That was really...
unless they just knew unless they just knew stuff about him that we don't, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
same thing with Pickett. Same thing with Pickett in Pittsburgh. You know, some of the reports came out about him not wanting to dress if he wasn't playing. Which, you know, puss, if that's true.
Jesus.
That's why you put the gloves on. Get your isotoners on.
He's going to fit in well here if that's true. Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's going to have a hell of a time here.
He will. He will. He will. But no, fun show, boys. Fun show.
Absolutely.
Talking Eagles. Eagles in March. When we were talking about what we were going to dive into tonight, it was sort of a no-brainer because next Sunday brings you Phillies prediction time. So, and around the MLB, here we go. Tomorrow we are 10 days away. 10 days away from opening day, baby. For Philadelphia Phillies, that is.
I was going to say, because the Dodgers are starting soon, right?
Yeah. The Seoul Korea, the Seoul games.
Yeah.
They're going
20th or 21st or something like
yeah,
that.
something like that. Wednesday, maybe.
I think it's the 20th. Yeah, Dodgers.
Wednesday,
Padres.
yeah.
6:05 a.m. Yep, that's it.
Giddy up!
6:05 a.m. We getting no sleep that night. Jeez, crackers. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's like the KB out.
Yeah, when during COVID, we were all
KB out. Yeah, watch the KB out with COVID. All right, baby. We're out of here. We thank you all for listening. It's been Agree to Disagree. HUD Radio. Hit the like, subscribe, follow. Turn your alerts on. We'll see you next Sunday. I'll see you Wednesday. We out. We love